Okay, I think that we are live. Good morning, everybody. It is September, excuse me, it's December 19th, 2021. It's been such a long time since I've been on here going through the astrology charts. I kind of taken a break because I've been working on my Lifehouse project, which everybody knows is a nonprofit, and we're here to give resources, shelter from women and children who have been rescued from human trafficking, domestic violence, and child abuse. So I'm just kind of doing this on a whim. So I am back. Welcome. I don't know if I'm going to do this on a regular basis right now, but I wanted to bring up the astrology charts today to show everybody what's going on, what's happening in their life. I know there's been a lot of disruptions. People are a little bit fearful of the future and what it's holding for them. And so I just wanted to go over the transits so people can understand what is the energy out there and what is the best way they can use this energy to propel their life forward. But I also want to remind everybody, and I've been seeing astrology videos from a lot of people out there, people that I know are that have really good intentions. But with that being said, they are spreading fear. And I don't think that we need to be in fear. I think we need to be cautious. We need to be self-aware. We need to have emotional intelligence and really learn to think for ourselves during this time, as certain energies are popping up in our worlds every day. But we don't have to live in fear if we don't want. And so with these people who are spreading fear, don't pay any attention to that. It is just a way to grab your attention, to make you focus on them, because if they can put you in fear, if they can alarm you, then they can control you. So just be really, really careful of who you're listening to. And don't let others put you in fear. But I'm going to share my screen and let's get to the astrology report for the day and what's happening on December 19th. So now I know that I do Vedic astrology, by the way, and I use all different kinds of charts, you guys, the Eastern, Western. I use the round charts, the Northern charts. So I use all different charts. It doesn't matter to me. Today, I'm going to be sharing, because I didn't get anything prepared on the Eastern system for the chart. So I'm going to use the round wheel. But if you don't understand the placements on the round wheel, just listen to what I'm saying, right? And yeah, just listen to what I'm saying and don't worry about what the chart may look like. Let me share my screen here. All right. So, and it lets me annotate. So this is really great also. So what's happening in our world today is that we have some really strong energies happening in the sign of Scorpio. And let me explain just a little bit about Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign of psychology. It's a sign of things that we don't feel comfortable working through. And yes, it's a sign of transformation. And yes, it's a sign of death, but don't let that put you in fear. Because a lot of times when we're talking about death and transformation, it doesn't mean physical death. It just means that maybe we're going to end thinking of a certain thing a certain way at this time. Maybe we're going to change our values. If we change our values and what we value, because remember, the 8th house of Scorpio is looking at our 2nd house. What is 2nd house? Values. So maybe we're going to be ending one value and starting a new value in our life. And to do that, we have to do a lot of inner work. We have to do some digging of our own psychology. And that's what Scorpio is all about, digging into things that people don't want to dig into. But if we don't get to the root of our own problems, then how are we going to change our life? How are we going to transform into something that's greater and better and plant those new seeds that are what are in Sagittarius? Because remember, Mula, yes, it's what they call a destructive nakshatra that's in the sign of Sagittarius. But what is it all about? It's about ripping out the old roots that we discovered that doesn't work for us in Scorpio and planting new seeds. And it takes violence to do that, if you will. We have to really be doing that inner work and forcing our bodies and forcing ourselves to do something that's new. That's just the reality of it. So coming back to Scorpio, Scorpio is when we discover those deep hidden secrets or things that we don't want to work through because they're ugly, they're nasty, maybe they embarrass us. We just want to kind of like flush it down the toilet. That's kind of the psychology part of Scorpio. And so that's why Scorpios are so good in business. They really get to the root of the issues. They expose the intricate part of human behavior, and they can take that and use it out in business. Because if you know how to really connect with people on that deep-seated rooted issues or connections, then you can go really far in life, especially in business. And I know you're thinking, Scorpio and business, you guys, this is such a great time that we can to look at what we're doing in business. How are we communicating in business? What are we in ourselves bringing out into the business world? Because remember that our second house and our eighth house is about money. Second house is about the money that we bring in from our career or from whatever that we may be doing, right? And it's looking at the eighth house. And what is the eighth house? It's other people's money. So this is people's money from like maybe the stock market or, even government, our partners. And it's not just our marriage partners, you guys, it's our opponents, right? It's the seventh house. So the eighth house of Scorpio is the second house from the seventh house. Seventh house is any partnership that we get, whether it be commerce or personal, and anybody that we're signing contracts with. And the eighth house, which is the second house to the seventh house, remember, is then that's our partners, our opponents' money. So this is what we're going to be getting from businesses. So I know that people don't look at the eighth houses that way, but it really is a huge part of our money that we are taking in through the second house. Just like the sixth house is what the expenses, it's a loss of that partnership and what we're losing, the litigation, because why? It's the 12th from the seventh house. That's what the sixth house is. So we have K2 running through here. Now we've got Mars. We just had Sun. And I guess I can annotate here. So right now, as I'm speaking, in this astrology chart, we've got Capricorn rising, but we're going to ignore the rising sign right now because I'm just going through the general transits. And remember, this is Vedic astrology. But right now, Scorpio, we've got Mars and K2. Mars just got done going over K2. And I can guarantee you guys what this has triggered was some deep psychological issues or challenges that we had with ourselves, and it showed out in our partners. It showed out in our partnerships. Maybe something that we decided to cut off completely. Some long-term relationships probably ended, but at the same time, what kind of values did you discover that you needed to change in life? And this is still a perfect time to work on that. Also, I want to go right over because you to Taurus, because you know Rahu is in the Taurus. So what is Rahu doing there? And it's in a nakshatra that's ruled by the sun. But Rahu in Taurus is he wants money, but he wants to be with family, and he wants to change our values to something that's more independent. Because what is Rahu about? Yes, he's about the outcast, right? I got that. But also he can make us obsessed with whatever sign that he's in. And in Taurus, it's not just about money, but it's about what we value. And this is a perfect time to really rethink what we're valuing in our life. What changes that we need to make? How are we valuing other people? Look at your income, look at what you have, look at what you're really valuing in life, and see how it's reflecting in your relationships. This is what Scorpio is asking. This K2 Mars, that's what it's asking. The answer always lies in the opposite sign from where the transits or even your planets in your natal chart is happening. So really look at what's going on with you and your psychology. So now let's move to the sun. We got Sun and Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. So we've got that hot, fiery flavor of, now that we discovered new values, we want to share it with the world, because that's what Sagittarius is all about. It is that higher wisdom. It's that higher learning. And it's the opposite sign of Gemini. And with it being the opposite sign of Gemini, that's usually what we need to move to when those transits are in that opposite sign. So Gemini is about sharing our values. It's about going out and speaking and communicating. It's the natural third house of the zodiac. And you got Mercury there. We may not be perfect at communicating because the sun is applying itself to Mercury. There's a little bit of a combustion going on, and that's okay. Your communications are not going to be perfect, but what it's asking of you is to go and share what you've learned with the world. That's the most important thing. Maybe we learned something not so great of ourselves. Maybe we learned, some betrayals have been uncovered. And they could be small betrayals, but also, did we learn something that was really positive and good? We want to share both, not just one. I'm not going to get hooked up into the media of only talk positive, because that's not the reality of life. If we were only thinking about only positive good things and want to live in this utopia, then I wouldn't have the Lifehouse Project. And what does the Lifehouse Project do? We rescue and we save and we give resources to women and children who've been rescued from human trafficking and from child abuse and domestic violence. So this is about looking at the real reality of our world and what we're living in, and looking at our circumstances. This is about, how are you moving through these circumstances and the events? What are you doing to make the world a better place? But this is really what the sun and Mercury is doing right now. It's all about sharing what we have learned, sharing our new values, spreading that seed around, if you will, and really communicating with our siblings, communicating with our family, communicating online, wherever that you want to communicate. Spread what you've learned, because that's how the world grows. So let's move on to, we've got Venus, Saturn, and I'm even going to add in Pluto here. And the reason why I'm going to add in Pluto, and I know that we don't use it a lot in Vedic astrology, but I know just from my own personal chart and for a fact that if a planet is conjunct one of these outer planets exactly or by 2-3 degrees, it really does impact an astrology chart, but it also impacts the society as a whole. So we just had Venus coming over Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Pluto, I know that they say he is the second ruler of Scorpio, but I think he goes even deeper than that. He goes into the underworld. He's going to be trudging up and digging up the worst of the psychology in the world and expose it. That's what he does. He really is a planet of destruction. But again, in order to have something new, to raise the conscience of the world, we need that to happen. And where is he at? He's in the government. So our businesses, our government, anything that's a long-term establishment is going to be affected by this Pluto coming into the sign of Capricorn. Venus just came over, and what does Venus indicate? She's the ruler of Taurus and also the ruler of Libra, which means the way our values, our money, what we value, how we value, and the business that we do with people, the commerce, the communication, the changing of information and or goods or services are all going to change. And Capricorn is also a huge significant, of course, of the government. So things are going to be exposed. Dirty things that have been done, underhanded, is going to be exposed. Words that were used for manipulation is going to be exposed. And this is going to be gradually over time. It's not going to be like, boom, we wake up one night and there is everything out on the in the media. No, because media is part of the manipulation tactics that they've used on the world. They have controlled us and our emotions, and they can get us to do anything we want on the media stations. So Venus is going to be really bringing that out and showing us what's happening and what's going on. So really expect even more of our values as we're moving along here changing. And as we change, we're going to be spreading it around. It's going to affect everybody that's around us. We also have Saturn there in Capricorn. I tell you what, I know a strong Saturn can be really tough in anybody's astrology chart. But what it does is that it makes us slow down in that area. Change is slow. And when we change everything in a slow pace and not something that's quick and rash, like in a Rahu way, if you will, then we have time to build something that's way stronger. We have a time to move and do that transformation in a much slower, stronger, and durable way. But the change is coming. Saturn's demanding it. This is all about the government and what's happening worldwide with our leaders who lead nations, who lead each and every nation. This is going to be something that's just not in the US, it's worldwide. I want to talk a little bit about Jupiter being in the sign of Aquarius. Now, one of the things that I know that Jupiter is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn, and let's understand the debilitation of Jupiter. Jupiter is our higher wisdom, right? He's the 9th and the 12th house ruler naturally, and which is Sagittarius and Pisces. And this is all about tapping into that higher wisdom and our beliefs. And we look at, churches and synagogues and our priests and our preachers and our teachers, our universities, the higher wisdom, the doctors, right? Coming from this 9th house. They say that Jupiter is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn because Jupiter then becomes not such a spiritual or all about higher wisdom. Jupiter is all about business. What are we doing to make money, right? So it wants to please those lower senses, and it seems to work a lot slower, and it can be very frustrating because we want what we want right now. We're a society of instant. Well, there's no such thing as instant, you guys. Anything that lasts is nurtured. It takes time. I mean, Sagittarius teaches us that, right? You got to nurture it. You got to protect it. You got to fertilize it. You got to feed it. You got to do all of these things for it to actually grow into something that is usable out in the public, which is Sagittarius going into Capricorn. So with Jupiter coming out of Capricorn, we have felt that struggle of manifesting what we want in life, our new values, our new businesses. We probably started up some new businesses, and now he's in the sign of Aquarius. And I just want to explain a little bit. Aquarius is really about being out there in society, sharing our arts, our crafts, what we enjoy, and what we create, even our children out in society, out in groups. It's all about that kumbaya, if you will, but what's better for society. And also it has such a great flavor of healing long-term or incurable diseases. So I think Jupiter is positive here. It's just not a genie in a bottle. And if we change how we value things and what we're looking at, we're going to notice that maybe genie in the bottle and making that quick wish isn't the best way. Because how is that cultivating relationships? We need to really start bonding and having better relationships with society, with each other when we're out in the communities. How are we doing that? Our big social groups, our big, frat parties that we go to, our communities, wherever that may be. How are we showing up there? How are we cultivating that relationship? And this is what Jupiter is really asking for in the sign of Aquarius. What are we doing? How are we spreading the wisdom that we know and what we've been taught? What are we doing to bring that wealth into society? It's not all about what we're getting. It's about what we're giving. So we really want to start focusing on what are we doing, showing up, spreading, and bringing to society as a whole. So we're going to be moving then. I did cover a little bit about Rahu being in the sign of Taurus, and I'm not getting into the nakshatras on this video. I'm just going to be doing the zodiac signs. Again, you guys, this is Vedic astrology, not tropical. So again, Rahu really is desiring to being with our family. Rahu really is desiring a new independent way of valuing and establishing our values, because you got to remember that, Rahu was the outcast. Rahu was all about going out on its own. He had to learn to be independent. So that desire in Taurus is not just about desiring money, how we're getting money, but it's also really about what we value, changing those values. That's going to be probably something very different than our own families. Because again, Rahu is independent. He's the outcast, right? So we're going to learn to establish our own set of values and live by those and rewrite them. This is a perfect time. You guys take a pen and rewrite your values out for this coming year. Instead of necessarily writing out just goals, why don't you write out values? And with those values, write out the new rules in how you know that you're living according to your new set of values. This would be a perfect time for that. So one last planet that I'm going to cover today before I end this is going to be, of course, the moon. And the moon shifts and moves so quickly. So I'm just going to kind of go through what people are probably feeling today. We're going to feel a lot like communicating today. Probably Facebook and social media, whatever form that you may be using, is going to be a little bit busier today than usual. But be careful in your communications. You're going to want to talk a lot. You're going to want to visit a lot. But that the sign of Gemini. It's all about that researching and talking and sharing. It is the natural third house of communications. So we're really going to feel like doing that today. So I expect a lot of people to be out there on social media communicating. All I ask is really take in, what are you saying? What are you sharing? What's your new values? Really think before you're speaking. And I know that you're wanting to spread what you've learned, but make sure that you're spreading something that is really true, that's something that you've researched and you really thought over. Don't be rash with your communications. Mars and K2 can be very, very cutting. We can lose our head when we're communicating with others and really hurt somebody. And do we really want to do that? Because you know that if we're out to hurt somebody, something's going on inside of us that doesn't feel good. And that is just a reaction from our own feelings of what we have for ourselves. And we're putting it out on somebody else and cutting and hurting somebody else. And I tell you what, two wrongs don't make a right. So I'm going to end this today. This is, of course, Breakthrough Astrology. My name is Samantha, and my new website, by the way, is www.venusmastermind.com. My Breakthrough Astrology services are on my website, and I do have a new Facebook page, business page that's open to the public. It's not private. I will be putting this video also on that, and it's the Venus Mastermind. I am just coming out with a new face and in a new way of doing things, and I will catch you guys all later. Bye.